Hi, welcome back to Boxwood Avenue. Today I am so excited to show you my garden reveal. At Boxwood Avenue, our motto is luxury and simplicity. You can find interior design inspiration, recipes, and homesteading tips and tricks on my blog, boxwoodavenue.com. Today I'm going to show you how we turned this space into my little sanctuary. This has been my retreat all summer long. I spend pretty much every morning and every evening out here. This project has been years in the making. We had this little plot of in between land. Over here to my left is where we keep cattle and horses, and in between where we keep that and then our yard, there's just kind of this dirt weed area. I used to keep my goats out here, and I always dreamt of turning it into a garden. I always thought it would be the perfect spot for a kitchen garden. And so for years and years I dreamt about it, and we finally made it happen this year. To get started on the project, we needed to clear this space out. So we already had the fence built, which made it a little bit more difficult to clear the space out. So we rented a skid steer, which was awesome. I definitely recommend renting something like that if you are planning on doing a project like this. I think it was around $300. It was money well spent. It was just from a local place actually in Reno, and we brought it up here on a trailer, and we used that to transfer the dirt, transfer the pea gravel, and clear the space out. After the area was clear, we came through and we rolled out our weed barrier. And then the guys came through with the skid steer with the pea gravel, and we spread the pea gravel everywhere. This took quite a long time. This took the better part of a day to do. After we were done with that, we placed the raised beds, and then we came back through with a skid steer full of soil and dropped the soil in. We actually went up to the ranch and picked up some manure compost and layered that on the bottom. And then I purchased soil from a nursery, the same nursery that we got the weed barrier from. We brought that up in multiple trips and filled up the garden beds with that soil. And after that, it was really fun. We started to place the plants and get planting. And then it felt like the project was complete. Getting to plant the plants was very fun. We have a really amazing nursery here locally. So I went to the nursery and got some vegetables and plants, and then we also planted a few things from seed. Overall, the project took 2 days. There were 4 of us. I'm so grateful for our friends Megan and AJ for coming up to help us. AJ's a really great gardener, so he had a lot of really great tips for me. Both he and Megan gave me a lot of good advice on where to plant things and how to plant things. And when they were leaving, AJ showed me how to do the drip system. And this is really easy. So if you don't have a drip system but you would like to put one in, this took me a couple evenings. It wasn't just a one-day thing, but I'd come out in the evening and add my little drip lines. What we did is we did one long hose along the length of the entire garden, and then that hose tees off into another big hose which connects to an actual hose to our house. And then that hose is, we got like this little box that automates the water system, and it just automatically it waters twice a day from the 2 large hoses, so from the large T. Then I just installed smaller drip lines. I used this little hole puncher thing and just punched holes in the large hose, connected the smaller hose to it, and then wired that up through my boxes. You don't have to dig them up through your boxes, you can just have them shown, but I wanted to bury them. And then I just went through and buried the hose. In years past, my garden failures, I think, have stemmed from inconsistent watering. You know, you go out of town, or you miss a day, or you don't water as much from one day to the next. So installing this drip system really helped set me up for success to have a bountiful garden, and it really wasn't very difficult. I think that anybody can do it, even a kid could do it. It's very easy to do. I think that covers kind of the bases here, but I want to take you on a little tour and I'll show you around. This little area is kind of my berry patch, I guess. I put these stakes in earlier this week, but I would like to have a nice little metal kind of cage built so that way the blackberries can go over and it feels like you're walking under a little cave of blackberries. So I've got thornless blackberries, and then these are raspberries, and then I have blueberries over here. This is my little lettuce patch area right here. So I've got kale and spinach and lettuces, and I grew them all from seed, so that's very accomplishing. And then this is my broccoli patch. Broccoli is my favorite vegetable. Clearly you can tell I went a little crazy, but they are growing, and knock on wood, I don't have any aphids on here yet. Fingers crossed they don't come. And I have some broccoli growing, which is so exciting. And then over here are all of my tomatoes. So I planted 5 tomato bushes, which was it could potentially be a little bit overzealous. They started taking over, so I have cut them back a bit and staked them up. I think next year I'll probably trellis them, so that way there's a little bit more structure. But they're growing, it's very exciting, and I picked 2 of my first tomatoes the other day off of this vine, and they were super tasty. This is my little seedling garden table, so I keep all of my necessities right here. This was actually the dining table we had before, and now I have a different dining table up top. But this has been great just to kind of store everything and house everything, and it sort of breaks up the garden a bit, so aesthetically it looks really pretty too. These 2 beds have been kind of my problem children. They are struggling the most. We've started to get some grasshoppers here, but my vision, I planted some peas, would be to have the peas kind of come across like I have the berries, and it's not necessarily happening, but they still look really pretty. So I've got these willow little canopies, and then some radishes and beets planted here. I planted some carrots and they didn't take off, so I just replanted some asparagus here, which I'll leave, and then that should come back year after year. And my artichokes totally died, so. This table I purchased a really long time ago, and it was in our storage shed, and I had honestly forgotten about it. But it's the perfect table. These are vintage chairs that I have from my shop, and we come out here and sit and have dinner under this tree, and it's so nice. I bring my laptop out here and work, and it's just like this little sanctuary place for me to come and relax after the day. So this is probably my favorite place in the whole world right now. I planted some hydrangeas right here, so I'm hoping that the hydrangeas will grow to be really big and bountiful and produce a lot of flowers. I've got some lavender and vines here, so it feels almost like an entrance into this upper part of the garden. This is my little herb garden. I had to cut back the rosemary because the rosemary seemed to be the only thing that was still growing after last year's grasshopper incident. And then behind me I've got squash and cucumbers, and I planted some onions and peppers, but there was a little garden friend, a rat, that came and ate all of my onions and peppers. So there's one bed that I kind of need to replant, but it's a little bit late in the season, so I'm not sure if I will. But I have more squash than I know what to do with, so I'm just trying to give it away to everybody that I can. And I'm so happy to have this little spot. I spend a lot of time on my computer inside working, so having some place where I can come outside and relax has been really, really nice. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the logistics to help answer some of the questions I know I might get in the comments. One, the raised beds are made out of wood. I will go and seal them with linseed oil just because that's what we use up on the ranch. They are made out of true 2x12s. This is wood that we use up at the ranch anyways, so we already had it, so I'm really grateful for that. It wasn't an added expense. The supplies we used for this project are the weed barrier, the skid steer, the raised garden beds, the soil, the pea gravel, and then the drip system. I also installed a couple of large posts afterwards as the plants have grown. I've gotten a lot of questions asking if we don't have deer, how are we keeping the deer out? Luckily we don't have deer, but we do have chickens. The chickens are in, right now one's eating my kale, I'm watching her do it. I could easily install some netting or some barriers to keep the chickens out, but they don't do that much damage and they like being in the garden, so I'm not too worried about it. I have had some weeds pop up here and there. I have a little spray bottle with some weed vinegar that I got from like Home Depot or something, and so I go through and spray that when I notice weeds coming up. The drip system is starting to show a little bit where some of the pea gravel has settled, so I just come back through with a wheelbarrow full of pea gravel and sprinkle it where some of the tarp is showing or where the drip system is starting to show through. Overall, I truly couldn't be more grateful for this space. I'm so thankful that it finally came together, and it truly has been my little happy place every morning, every evening throughout summer. I really hope that this inspires you if you have a spot in your house that you dream could be a garden too. Don't forget, you can always visit me at boxwoodAvenue.com, and if this is your first time here, I hope you will subscribe before heading on to our next video.